Tomb of Horemheb, number 57. Before the tomb of the boy king was found, this tomb's discovery is regarded as one of the greatest discoveries ever. On February 25, 1908, American archaeologist Theodore M. Davis and his then assistant Edward R. Ayrton made the discovery. In just 4 days, he managed to clear the sand and remove the stones and gain entry into the tomb. He believed that the vividly colored scenes on this tomb were beautiful. In addition, he pointed out the king's sarcophagus, which remains inside the burial chamber, and a few pieces of discovered funerary furnishings. Before this tomb was discovered, Horna thinks the last people to visit it were robbers during the Ramesside period. He believed that this is supported by the fact that no other later era visitor texts in Greek, Latin, or Coptic were found within. He gave the order to cut tomb into the mountain in the Valley of the Kings. Another tomb was constructed during the early years of his life, while he was an army officer, in the Saqqara region. Regretfully, the majority of its scenes are spread throughout foreign museums. The majority are in the Leiden Museum in the Netherlands, others are in the Berlin Museum in Germany. A portion of them is housed at the museums of London, New York, Paris, and Vienna. Because it has 2 parallel axes, the tomb marks the beginning of a new phase in the evolution of royal tombs. The entry and corridors form the first axis, which is followed by the well and a large room with 2 pillars. From this room, the second axis starts and leads to the burial chamber. The king most likely did not live long enough to finish the scenes and inscriptions on this royal tomb, but the parts that were left unfinished or undrawn or uncolored are what gave us the different stages of development needed to draw, engrave, and color a particular scene. For example, we find that some of the tomb's walls were left unfinished or unready for painting, while other walls have scenes painted in red ink that have been corrected with black ink. We also see additional scenes that have been expertly engraved and colored. The tomb allows us to follow each step of the drawing, correcting, engraving, and coloring processes. It resembles a whole school. The artist's transition from the drawing stage, which we have seen in earlier royal tombs, to the colored engraving stage may be the innovation in this case, at least for the sequences that have been completed. The tomb starts with a descending staircase, which leads to a corridor. Next, we enter a room whose floor resembles another descending staircase, with 2 niches on either side. From there, we enter another corridor that leads to the well room, which is now covered so that people can pass over it. Above this well, lovely religious themes painted in vivid colors adorn the walls. Scenes depicting the king in the company of certain netherworld deities, including Anubis, Horus, the son of Isis, his mother, Hathor, and Imentet, can be seen on the left. Additionally, the king is also seen on the right, between Horus and Hathor, and in front of Osiris, Anubis, and Horus, son of Isis. Subsequently, the first axis stops in a square hall supported by 2 pillars. From there, the second axis begins on the left and leads to a short corridor that terminates in another descending staircase, which has 2 sunken niches on either side. The room that comes right before the burial chamber is then reached. It's a rectangle space. Beautiful, vividly colored scenes that depict the king in his different relationships with the gods and goddesses stand out on its walls. Scenes of him with Hathor, in front of Anubis, offering wine to Isis, and in front of Horus, Isis's son, offering wine to Hathor, before Osiris, offering fat to can be found on the left. Along with the god Nefertum, who was depicted in place of the god Ta, we can also see scenes on the right that show him in the company of very identical gods and goddesses. Then we arrive at the burial chamber, which is distinguished by a scene of the goddess Mot at its entrance. The existence of 6 pillars arranged in 2 rows and a depression in the final third of the chamber, which houses the coffin, distinguish this burial chamber. The 9 varying-sized side chambers are another feature that distinguishes it. Since the burial chamber's engraving is not yet been completed, the majority of the texts are only sketches. The majority of the texts are the Book of Gates, which describe how the sun moves through 12 gates during the 12 nocturnal hours, each guarded by a massive snake that requires the deceased to know the name of the gate and the hour in order to pass through it, are found here for the first time. These texts took the place of those from the book What is in the Netherworld, or Horemheb, which was a favorite among the kings buried before King Horemheb's rule. This was also the first appearance of the Hall of Osiris, a reference to Osiris's judgment in the Netherworld. It is the 5th hour of the book The Gates, where we see the god Osiris, the judge of the dead and the master of life, sitting on his throne and wearing his well-known dress. He is holding the scepter Hikkat in one hand and the sign of life Ankh in other hand. In front of him, in the shape of a mummy, is standing the god who carries the scales. The scales were meant to weigh the deceased's heart in order to determine what good or evil he had done. The scales, or pans of a balance, are empty in this instance, and one of it supposed to had the deceased's heart on it, while the other supposed to had a little statue of Mat, the goddess of truth. Behind the god who carries the scales is a staircase. There is a god standing on each of the 9 steps of the stairway, representing the Ennead of the righteous. A boat with a monkey inside that is beating a pick is visible above them. They stand for the wicked gods Set and Apophis, who are emblems of evil. Perhaps this monkey represents the god Jehudi pursuing the evil god Set. The god Anubis is located above the second monkey, which is seen near the boat grasping a shepherd's crook. A frieze featuring the Egyptian symbol Keker adorns the scene. It is also noted that the god Osiris's throne is topped by 4 ibex heads that have been turned upside down. We must take note of the scene in the side chamber on the left, where the god Osiris is depicted in vivid color, with his face seeming green and his body white. The burial chamber's end has a depression where the sarcophagus is situated. The pink granite stone is used for the sarcophagus, where the guardian goddesses Isis, Nephthys, Serket, and Neith are shown on its corners, spreading their wings over its sides.